So we began talking about Sefer HaYashar, the book of the just, of the straight. And we saw the Gemara that says that Sefer HaYashar is the book of Bereshit, Genesis. The book of Genesis is called by Chazal Sefer HaYashar because it describes the behavior of the just ones, which are Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Yosef, and so on and so forth. We start with Adam HaRishon. We talked about it yesterday. That Adam HaRishon was born, was created just, created straight, but he bent himself out of shape. Instead of maintaining focus and not sinning, he made the mistake and sinned. Right? He needed to repair the world. The world needed to be repaired through one act, which was what? Not eating of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. If he would just not eat it, the world would be repaired. But he made a mistake. He sinned. So then what did Hashem do? What he did, he says, that the Kadosh Baruch Hu divided evil into small parts and put them in each person. It used to be that the Yetzer Hara was one entity, right? Just one huge entity. And that was what Adam had to fight against. Since Adam lost, that piece, that entity was broken into little parts, and one part goes into you, one part goes into you, one part goes into you, one goes into you, and so on and so forth. And to me, I get one too. I'm not void of Yetzer Hara. So the Yetzer Hara is in each and every single person. And we have the duty to do a tikkun, to repair this. Which means that it's going to be different in different people. Your battle is not going to be my battle. Your battle, Yosef, is going to be different than mine. Got it? Okay. So if there's no more justice, in the sense of being straight, not being crooked, in the world, because Adam HaRishon essentially made the mistake and sinned, is nobody straight anymore? Are we all crooked? Are we all doomed? That's the question. So listen to what the Rambam writes. The Rambam writes, Velo Shevet HaLevi bilvad. It's not only about Shevet HaLevi, the Levi tribe, the Levites, but each person that is created in the world, that his spirit brings him and his knowledge brings him to stand before God. And he has the desire to serve God and to know him. And he shall walk straight the same way that God made him. And he would get rid of all of the calculations that human beings try to do when they sin. And hence he will become Holy of Holies. So at the end of Shemitah v'Yovel, and the laws of Shemitah and Yovel, the Rambam says this. So what does the Rambam say here? He's telling you that every person is born straight. Every person is born just. Every person is born yashar, to quote the Rambam. But only because we make all sorts of calculations. I want to go back to New York. I want to party for New Year's Eve. I want to make money. All these calculations cause him to bend the aspect that he is straight. You were born like this. But because you have in your mind all sorts of calculations and things that you think you want, you blow it. There is a way to maintain the natural position that we are created, and the only way to do it is to dedicate ourselves, Ronnie, are you hearing? To the service of Hashem. I'm not making this is what he writes. And it says in Sanhedrin, it says, the man was created alone in the world to teach you that if a person causes one nefesh of Israel to be lost, it's considered as if he lost the entire world. And whoever saves one nefesh of the Jewish people, it's as if he saved a whole world. So what does that mean? It means that there's 7.5 billion people here, and every single person is unique. There's nobody like you. There's nobody like you. And if you cause yourself to be lost, Ronnie,
laying it on thick.
It's on you. I'm laying it a little thick. Okay, fine. Max, if you save your own nefesh, if you save your own neshama, it's as if you saved an entire world. It's up to you. You could choose. Stay in yeshiva or live la vida loca. These are the wondrous aspects of God's action. He can create 7.5 billion people, and each person is different. Each person is different. There are no two people who are alike.
Except for soulmates.
They're not alike. Sometimes they complement each other. That is, you like, I don't know, fish, and she hates fish.
That compliments?
That complements. So you learn to eat what she likes. That's the compliment. And you compliment her on her food. You should know the uniqueness that you have and the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created you to be straight, to be just, was exactly the way that Adam HaRishon was created. And if you are going to be just and straight, the same way that God created you, then you will be able to fulfill your role on earth. Okay? Now, Adam HaRishon was not the one to repair this world. He couldn't repair it. The first person that tried to repair the world is who? Who knows? What? Yonah. He said Yonah. Avraham Avinu. Yeah? Avraham Avinu was the first person who started to repair this world. Avraham Avinu. And he says the Rambam talks about this in the beginning of Ilchot Avodah Zarah, laws of idol worshipping. He says that once he was Nigmal Eitan Zeh. That's what he calls it. It says. When he was weaned, he started wondering in his mind, and as a young child, he looked at this world and realized that there's got to be someone running it. Someone's running it. And he started looking at the things that are around him, and he saw that there's nothing in the society in which he lived that made any sense as those who run the universe. And eventually he came to understand that there is a God, that he runs the world. But he didn't really have an understanding of what is God. He just knew that there's a creator, there's some sort of a force that runs the world. At the age of 40, around the age of 40, Avraham Avinu recognized or became to know his creator. And once he figure that out, knew God, he started arguing with people living in the town that he was growing up. He grew up in, which is Ur Kasdim, and started arguing with them and explained to them that they are living a lie, that they should live a life of truth. And he started smashing their idols and started speaking against that religion and so on and so forth. So we see that really Avraham Avinu's relationship with Hashem has two stages. What's the first stage?
Discovery.
So I want to be precise with you. First, he knew that there is God. But when did he recognize his creator? That was much later, when he was around 45, according to Rashi. Okay? So the Rambam is bringing us these two ideas. Two ideas. That Avraham Avinu knew that there was God, and he knew that when he was young. And then when he was much later, he understood and recognized his creator. What's the difference between the two? What's the difference between knowing that there is God and recognizing his creator? The difference is one is in your mind, and the other one is in your heart. In your mind, it means that you know there is God. Is there a God, Ronnie? Yeah. Do you know your creator? Yeah. But those are two different things. It's coming from two different parts of who we are. Nimrod. Remember Nimrod in the book of Bereshit? Who was Nimrod?
First mighty man.
First mighty man. He rebelled against God, right? Rashi says he knew his master, God, but rebelled against him. Same thing it says on Sdom, the people of Sdom, that they were sinners to Hashem. That is, they knew their master, they knew that there's God in the world, but they rebelled against him. It's not that they didn't know that there was a God. They knew there was God, but they rebelled against God. So, the knowledge that there is God obligates the human being so that he cannot live a life that he does whatever he wants. That's what the Alei Shur says. The fact that you know there's a God, you might not know how this God really works and what does he really want you to do. But it means that once you recognize that there is God, there is an entity, a being, that is responsible for this world, you can't just do whatever you want. What we see is that once a person knows that there's God, he can't really do whatever he wants. But the forces of his body are going to rebel against the knowledge in your mind that God exists. Did you hear that?
In your mind, God exists.
That your mind knows that God exists, but your body is going to rebel against that piece of knowledge. It's going to try to tell you, nah. Why? Because the body wants to do whatever it wants to do. For example, watch the ball drop at Times Square. Or, I don't know. I have other examples, but I can't share them right now. But David knows. You know what's going on over there, where he's hanging out. So, what we see from here is that the recognition that there is a master to this world brings about a rebellion against him. Okay? So first stage is knowing there's a creator. Second stage is the rebellion against him. Now we're dealing with a third stage. The third stage says, person who knows God, knows his creator in his heart, that is, that his knowledge of Hashem penetrated his feelings and all of the faculties of the nefesh, of the soul, then he accepts it willingly and he does not want to rebel against Hashem. And then he develops a personal relationship with his Creator. That's what Avraham did when he was in his 48. So whenever Chazal, or a few times that Chazal talk about Makir et Bor'o, that is, he recognizes or knows his Creator, they always say that we're talking about things of the heart. There's a connection to the heart. Why is it important to be connected to the heart? Because then it means you're adopting the behavior of the Kadosh Baruch Hu in this world. Right? Kadosh Baruch Hu is a God of chesed, of loving kindness, and it means that you adopt those ways of behavior towards your fellow human beings. Avraham Avinu recognized his Creator, and what was the consequence? He became an ish chesed. He became a man of giving. Right? He opened his tent, invited people to eat and drink. He brought people closer to Hashem. And that was what Avraham Avinu did. And that was sort of the next stage of having a better understanding of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. The next stage for Avraham Avinu was not only to recognize what Hashem does and to try to get people to do what Hashem does, but that Hashem has a name and you can call Hashem by his name and he will answer you. That's the next level. Right? Because we see that Avraham Avinu prays before Hashem. Vayikra b'shem Hashem. Right? In Lech Lecha. That is, we see that Avraham Avinu prays to Hashem and he has a relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. You won't tell the difference. What? He is a character. Okay, let's get started. So Avraham Avinu prayed to Hashem, and this prayer is the ultimate, well, I guess it's the final stage with regard to the tikkun that Avraham Avinu did for the world. It's big, huge. So this is what the Alei Shur says. Ra kadosh elyon ve'oved Hashem gadol karambam. Only a holy man and the servant of Hashem at this high level as the Rambam could figure out the path of Avraham Avinu. Because it took him 40 years to connect the knowledge in his mind to his heart. It took 40 years for this process to complete itself. 40 years. And what are we going to say? We are commanded by the Kadosh Baruch Hu, Rani. This is his pasuk. Vayadata hayom, right? And you shall know today. Vashivot alev, you should bring it to your heart that Hashem is the Elokim, that Hashem is God. You have to do it in one day. Avraham Avinu had how many years? 40 years. I heard a story of how did it work with Avraham Avinu. That somebody came to him, he was Avraham, little Abe was walking on the street, and somebody gave him a piece of candy. So he held the candy and he said, "Thank you, sir." And then he says, "You're welcome." And he says, "Thank you for making the candy." He said, "I didn't make the candy. I just gave it to you." He says, "Well, so who made it so I can go think?" He says, "I don't know. I got it at the store." So little Avraham walks to the store and he goes to the guy and he says, "Thank you for making the candy." And the guy said, "I didn't make the candy. I just buy it from the factory." So he said, "Okay." So he goes to the factory. He says, "Thank you for, making and creating the candy." So then he says, the factory owner says, "Well, I just put the ingredients together. I'm not." He says, "We got the sugar, and so he says, "Where do you get the sugar from?" So I get it from the farmer. He grows the sugar canes." So he goes to the farmer and says, "Thank you for it." He says, "Well, I'm not. I just planted and it grows." So eventually he recognizes that really the person that's responsible, the being that's responsible for this candy is the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Everything that you have, you can do the same. And recognize there's a creator. That he's behind it. Whether it's good thing or whether it's going to be good. Because sometimes things happen to us that are not so good. That are difficult to deal with. But Hashem is also behind them. Right? So that's how I heard the story of little Avraham learning about Hashem. Recognizing the Creator. Because he wanted to thank the person for the candy. Now, we are commanded to know today and bring it to our heart that Hashem is God. How many? 4, 1 died. What? Depends who you ask. According to mainland China, it is China. Okay. Let's keep going just a little bit more. So how did Avraham Avinu find the path from the intellect to the mind, to the heart? How did he understand that you need to actually bring it into your heart in order to get to the next level? There are a lot of philosophers who recognize there's a creator. For example, Aristotle recognized there's a first cause to the universe. But he never went to the next step. There are many philosophers who recognize there's a God. But they never went to the next step to bring it into their heart and to live in that way. So how did Avraham Avinu do this? So he says that he understood that he found 2 things. He found the truth, and he found something that's called tzedek. Tzedek is justice. So that he has to follow the path all the way to the end, which is what we talked about in the beginning, the heart. The heart. And this is a bit of a blessing to you. That in Ruach Chaim, right? Rabbi Chaim of Volozhin has a book on Pirkei Avot called Ruach Chaim. He says, whatever moral virtues, Be'ezrat Hashem, you can repair it for your child. So your child starts on a higher level than you.
You changed it up a little bit. You said the first time you said naturally, and then the second time you said Be'ezrat Hashem.
It's always Be'ezrat Hashem. Always Be'ezrat Hashem. So it says, they will reach it with a little bit of work. You have to put a lot of work. Right? That's what he says. The tzaddik has to work a lot in order to get it. And once he gets it, his descendants would have to work just a little bit in order to get it. And that's the idea. That we see that a lot of the Jewish people in the past, in history, gave up their life for the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That they died for Kiddush Hashem. Right? And that is something that we received naturally from Avraham Avinu. Because Avraham Avinu worked hard and reached that level, we have that level in us. So all of the nisyonos, the 10 trials that he went through, is to help us. And whatever you work on is going to continue to help your descendants. But you have to take what you know in your mind, that God exists, draw it into your heart, and live according to those principles. Can't sit on the fence.